What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. Today, me and my partner in crime, Joey Ricotta, you can find him on X at Joey Knows Nothing. We'll dive into our final bets for this week's Travelers Championship, the final signature event of the 2024 season. As always, if you're watching this right now, make sure to go and jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can let us know who you're tailing, who you're fading this week at TPC River Highlands. Also, please go and throw us a like. Thank you very much. And another reminder to follow Golf on Tap wherever you may be listening to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's all free. So that way, if you're not able to join us live, you're still able to check in on all of the latest episodes. Joey, this is an episode that feels good to do, man, because we have been knocking on the door so many times in the last couple of weeks, man. Colin Morikawa, the close call at the Memorial, the most recent one that ripped our hearts out to the hands of Scotty Scheffler yet again. The boogeyman finally wasn't in the picture over the weekend. Boy, did it feel good not to see that name just coasting up the leaderboard or sitting at top of it with one of my guys trying to chase him down. And we come away with Bryson DeChambeau as the winner, an electric finish to the U.S. Open. I actually think everyone involved with Golf on Tap, you, me, Tony, and Ross, we all had outrights on Bryson DeChambeau. So
Nice.
a huge win this past weekend for the On Tap Sports Network at the U.S. Open, and a big-time win for golf fans, man, because what a splendid last couple hours, and what a splendid tournament altogether, quite honestly. You know, Pinehurst number 2, Joey, you and I always talk about how we love to see the players get challenged, and Pinehurst certainly did that. And then what an amazing finish for us to pull together and get our second combined outright of the season, I want to say. Actually, I think, because you weren't on Steven Yeager at Houston, I don't think. So I
I
believe
don't think so. Mm-mm.
this is our second squad ride. Hopefully we can keep this momentum going here, man. It's been a little bit of a bumpy road, but as we discussed prior to recording, still both positive up on the year despite all of these hurdles. So
Somehow.
that's certainly encouraging. Gotta love the golf odds. That's what it's all about, baby. It's gotta stay on the straight and narrow through those bumpy times, man. I'm sure glad we did. Sure glad we bet on old Bryson DeChambeau. Give me your thoughts, Joey, as we jump into Travelers this week, but also celebrating still Bryson DeChambeau's epic victory on Sunday.
That's it. That's it. It's a celebration, bitches.
Hell
That's
yeah.
it.
It's a
That's it.
celebration.
That's my only real thoughts, man. It was a great tournament. I mean, talking pre-show, I just still can't believe that Rory, that second putt. I mean, the first one I was shocked too that he missed. But that second one, man, like the under 3 feet, just I did not think we had a shot in hell for him to miss that. And Bryson still had to make some shots, being up there by the roots and the bunker shot, the tremendous bunker shot. Like, I'm just happy that we're in the win column finally again. And like you said, this is probably the worst or one of the worst seasons that I can remember from an outright standpoint, and just how many close calls that we've had. And if you haven't been following us along show to show that we've been doing pretty much every week since the start of the season, since last fall, this has been it's been a trend here that we have come so close with the guy that and just not gotten the outright. So yeah, unfortunately for me, Scotty Scheffler, the one time I pick him and save him for my one and done, is that what it takes? I will take him as my one and done and just take defeat because it's illegal. I can't pick him for my one and done anymore. If that's what it means, if he's away from the top of the board, and it'll give us a shot for outrights. I think that's the sacrifice that this show might need, Jack. And if that's the case, I'm for it. I'm fine with it. I'll lose
Yeah.
the one and done battle with you.
We might need something. Yeah, the golf gods a double smile down at us over the weekend. Scotty not being in contention, even though it hurts your one and done. He got you a nice 82 points. I was really
Double.
hoping he was going to miss the cut, because that would have been a big number for you and Scotty Scheffler at the U.S. Open. But yeah, not only not having Scotty in the mix, but Bryson still had to go out there and earn that thing, man. It was not an easy 18th hole for him. You mentioned the approach shot where he was right up against that root and couldn't get his swing up right up against that tree in the native area, along with all the pressure on the line. And to hear him say, like 30 seconds before hitting that shot, he was telling his caddy, he's like, Gbo, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And I'm like, no, this
It's
is
not what we
falling
want.
apart right in front of my eyes. And I do feel bad that it came at the expense of Rory McIlroy. But man, we needed something to go our way. We finally got it. Let's carry that into the Travelers Championship this week, man. What do you say? This is a real interesting one because we have the shortened field here. This was a signature event when Keegan Bradley won last year, set the tournament record, by the way. Always got to give a shout out to my boy Keegs whenever I can. 23 under last year, hot dogging it down the 18th fairway, absolutely living it up. It made my heart happy to see. Last year, though, it was a signature event, but it was a full field. This year, we only have, I think, 68 players now after Rory McIlroy. I bet that guy was going 120, 130 miles an hour. Like like double hand on the steering wheel, just like, fuck! Probably drove straight across. He was driving so fast, he drove across the water, across the pond, over the Atlantic, right over back to Scotland, where we're not going to see him for another 3 weeks. But it's a limited field, and it's a much different course than what we've gotten for most of these signature events so far this season, Joey, because it's the shortest track on the PGA Tour. And you think about the big boy events we've had recently, obviously the US Open was super long and demanding a lot of long irons in there. Unless you're Bryson DeChambeau, then you're hitting a lot of wedges. But Murfield Village for the Memorial, Quail Hollow for the Wells Fargo, those are long, brutally challenging golf courses that demand long and straight driving, good long iron play, and a lofty short game. TPC River Highlands is the polar opposite to what these guys have kind of been accustomed to these last few weeks. I referenced the shortest track on tour, 6,850 yards as a par 70, so there's only 2 par 5s, but what you get here are a ton of short par 4s. 10 of the 12, Joey, are shorter than 450 yards, which means players are going to be hitting a lot of wedges into these greens, which have a pretty high green and regulation percentage, even though they are the 6th smallest greens on the PGA Tour. And that's because guys just are hitting wedges into here. And also the fairways are way more wide and receptive than also what they've been seeing recently. 38 yards wide on average. Yeah, there's 4-inch Kentucky bluegrass rough surrounding the fairways. If you miss, it is pretty penal. But it's much easier to hit these fairways compared to the last like 3 or 4 courses that we've seen. I think it's even going to be easier than what we saw for the Canadian Open a handful of weeks ago as well. So I've been really looking at just in terms of the ways guys can separate themselves here. It's with their wedge game and with their putter. Because so many guys are just going to be hitting fairways and hitting greens, we see a winning score usually above 17, 18 under here. And as I referenced last year, Keegan Bradley reached 23 under. That actually kind of, I think, led to the tournament directors narrowing in the fairways a little bit this year to try to make things a little bit tougher. And it has been very dry up in the Northeast reportedly. So I do think the course is going to play a bit tougher, but these are still the best of the best on the PGA Tour hitting wedges. So I think a winning score right around 20 is probably it. And you're going to have to be capitalizing and making your birdie putts in order to keep up with that pace. So I'm looking into guys who have been really good with their approach shots recently, really good with wedges in particular, from that 125 to 150, 150 to 175 range. And I also kind of narrowed in even on the yardages for the par 4s too, just because there are 12 of the 18 holes are par 4s, and a lot of them are 400 to 450, and then the other bunches are 350 to 400. So shorter par 4s, wedge players, and then guys that can fill it up and get hot with the putter. I did look into around the green a little bit because one thing that is kind of sneaky about TPC River Highlands is, despite its length, it is still a positional course. And if you get out of position, around the green can be a little bit tricky. So I don't want guys to be absolutely lackluster around the green. I put more into around the green than I did off the tee this week because guys are going to be clubbing back. They're going to be hitting fairways more often than not. I think 70% of the field or 68% of the field last year hit fairways. So it's going to be a wedge and putt fest, I firmly believe, man. I think those are the two ways to separate yourself on this course. So that's kind of the mindset I went into things in terms of my betting card this week with Joey.
Yeah, I like the approach. No pun intended. Or pun intended, I guess. I like the approach here because I do think the approach to me and focusing on wedge play, I think does make a lot of sense. In that 125 to 150 yard bucket, I kind of ignored the others for my personal like look this week. But that's not to say that, I think you're doing the smart thing there by focusing on like the shorter par fours, especially and what you're looking at. I did put a little bit more importance on the accuracy this week because I think if you do start missing fairways, then you can get yourself into some big trouble. And to me, it will be probably easier to hit the fairways, but I do not want guys that are going to be missing because I don't think you're going to be able to get low enough. I think when this thing is turning into a birdie fest, I think you're going to be wanting to. I mean, you might be able to still place within the top 20 or something like that, but you're not going to be able to truly contend. Yeah. So that's why I kind of did put a little bit more importance there, but I'm with you. The off the tee is not really super important, or like the distance is not super important this week. And we've just seen that as far as that's why there's so many different variables or different styles, I should say, of golfers that we've seen win this tournament between like DJ and just the list of short game
Ches
guys.
Reavie.
Yeah, Ches Reavie. Like there are some names on this list here. If we look at past winners, that Harris English and Bubba Watson, Jordan Spieth, like all these guys are just a little bit different with, and then X-Man. All these guys are just a little bit different. So I don't think that there is a right or wrong way technically to go about it this week. I just think it's going to come down to kind of like what you said, the guys that get hottest with the putters and really are positioning themselves well from the approach standpoint, and around the green. I think that could really pay dividends this week too, or you're going to need that part of the game too. But it's interesting, man. I could honestly see, even though this is an elevated event and there's a lot of good names here, with it being a no cut event, it's just very interesting to look at. I don't know if it's going to be one of those weeks where I want to take very long odds, but at the same time, I'm looking for value, and that's something that's tricky right after a major, because I don't know how many guys that are going to be at the top that are going to be truly looking at it this week is like, do I need this? Like, there's certain guys I'm just looking for the hunger. Like, how much are you locked in after what we saw last week? And that's going to be challenging this week too, from our standpoint.
Yeah, I think to kind of put a bow on all of that, this is a very intriguing week, as I kind of alluded to off the top, because this is a bit of a different course, and we are getting a signature event field this year where there's only 69 players and all of the big guns are here. And there have been some weird different types of players to find success here. Like you mentioned, Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, and Ches Reavie couldn't be any more different. There's also some very weird comp courses as well. When you look at like where guys who have had success here have also had success at it. It spans from the Valspar Championship, which I think is pretty close, even though the Valspar is usually a bit tougher than the Travelers. It's still a positional setup. Funny enough, both DJ and Bubba won at the Genesis Invitational, which has nothing in common with this course. Pebble Beach, those courses, they do have POA greens, which are featured here along with bent grass. So that's maybe something to look into, but there's so many different angles. And what I'm trying to get to is, as you referenced, there's not really a wrong way to go about it. There are so many different paths that you could take to get to your conclusion this week. Like it feels like a little bit of a crapshoot altogether. And then you throw in the kind of tough odds with it being a signature field. Like it's all a little bit of a shit show this week. Just hoping to somehow find a way to come out of the week with another winner, Joey.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Doesn't matter how you do it. Just get the job done.
I do not care at this point. I think we're heating up to a point where I feel confident in the process at this point of the season, because we've been doing it for so long now. And, I feel confident in what these guys' forms look like on paper and what we've seen in the
Yeah,
actual events. But the hard part is it's just so freaking random. Like at the end of the day, you can't go into this and feel super confident in anyone anymore. As we've seen from Scotty Scheffler last week. I mean, how many people had him dropping down past the top
right.
40? Like, did not see that one coming. And now look at him again. The odds are pretty much the same as what they were going into last week. So, which understandably so, but again, I'm not going to get there again this week because that would make no freaking sense. So please stay away, Scotty. Give someone else a chance. I'm going to need I really want your thoughts about, there's like 3 guys here towards the top that I'm trying to decide between because I cannot bet more than one of them. And I am really like, I don't have a strong opinion on any of them because I really like all 3 of them. So, yeah, Jack, I'm ready for it. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Scotty, he's at the top. We don't care what his number is. Xander Schauffele plus 750. We have Colin Morikawa 12-1. Luddy F Baby is 14-1. Victor Hovland's 18-1. That's your top 5. There's some worse numbers and better numbers out there. These look like they are from DraftKings and FanDuel, as we're looking at here on Odds Checker. So, I want to mention the other names too that I'm deciding between, and just kind of clump them into this range.
Okay.
Patrick Cantlay is 20-1, and Hideki Matsuyama is 25-1. Now, I don't like betting Patrick Cantlay.
No one
To
really
me,
does.
he makes a lot of sense for here, and he looked excellent last week. And if there's a random tournament signature event that I feel like he could come in and do well after we've seen like nothing from him, maybe he's found it a little bit. I feel like this is a good spot for Cantlay. I also think course fit wise and the heater that he's on, Hideki Matsuyama, makes a ton of sense here as well. Hold on, I'm looking at my last year picks, which we can get into if we want to. Hideki Matsuyama, I really like this week, and I also really like. So I guess there's 4: Colin Morikawa again, and Ludwig. I like Ludwig. Like I'm right now, if I had to pick one, Luddy F Baby would probably be my pick at 14-1. But I'm telling you, man, like I am so torn between the 4 of those guys and I can only get one of them just based on the way that I like guys that are further down the board. So please, Jack, help me out here.
Yeah. Very interesting range, obviously. I could even start with the Scotty Scheffler debate for those out there who are thinking about it. It's a good number. I'll tell you that right now. If he was 3-1 to win the US Open, he's now plus 360 to win the Travelers. I mean, there's a
With less guys in it.
much better odds that he wins this week. He's got great course history here. What he did over the weekend with the putter, I know these greens are much different than what we saw, the sidewalks that were featured at Pinehurst. But in a putting contest, I'm just going to pass on Scotty at that number. I'll say also, Xander Schauffele continues to play marvelous golf. He's won here before as well. And it feels like we know he hasn't had his best stuff the last couple of weeks, and he's still churning out top 10 finishes. Like his consistency is excellent. That number is just a little brutal, though, especially after the Rory withdraw. The 2 that it really was down to for me at the top were the next 2 guys, Colin Morikawa and Ludwig Oberg, especially because we've been on Colin pretty heavily the last couple of weeks, and he really hasn't given us that many reasons to, jump off ship at this point, even though kind of disappointed last week at the US Open, was never really in contention, even though we did have that round of the day on Saturday to get back to even. No one fell hard enough, and he didn't have that good enough round on Sunday to get in the mix, but continues to do great things with the short game. The irons seem to be fully back. And it feels like we're really seeing the best version of Colin Morikawa right here, right now. The reason why I didn't end up on him, Joey, is because of his course history here, which 2 of his 3 starts came before he was really like Colin Morikawa. They were when he was young. But he did struggle when I bet on him here last year. And for whatever reason, he just hasn't been good on these greens. And I think he's been better enough with the putter to flip the script. I don't know if he's going to make enough putts to win. And it feels like his strength, his iron play, kind of gets mitigated a little bit here because so many guys are going to be hitting wedges to about the same distance and trying to roll them in. So it pains me to not stay with Morikawa because I did really want to bet him. And I almost pulled trigger on the 16-1 that was out there when Rory was still in the field. I didn't. And then he went down to 12. And I kind of just got off it at that point. So
Can I
go ahead.
add on to that too, just real quick? I had the notes here from what we talked about last year.
Oh, yeah, sure. Throw those in.
What really concerned me going into last year with Morikawa, and he's not really in the same form as he was last year, and so that was another concern. I think a lot better form here, obviously, going into this year. But what really concerned me, like you said, with the putts, I didn't think he'd be able to go low enough, like we've historically seen from this event. And I still have the same concerns here, kind of like what you said with not being able to make enough putts. I don't know if he can go low enough. So just to add on to that, because I agree with what you're saying, that might push me towards Luddy F baby too.
Yeah, I bet Ludwig this morning at 15-1. And another thing I didn't even talk about as uh another reason why this week is kind of weird. You hinted about it too. Just alternative motivations. These guys have been through the grind these last 2 weeks with Murfield Village and Pinehurst #2. Now, I'm sure everyone still wants to go out there and they're going to try their best and they want to win this golf tournament. But I do feel like you can make an argument this week that some guys are going to be more motivated than others. And I think Ludwig Oberg, just being a fresh, smiley young kid with really no worries. Like he kind of, fell out of contention last weekend after having the 36-hole lead. He's got by Pinehurst because, the lack of experience, I think, kind of showed in the around the green, which has kind of been his one kryptonite, I guess, if you will, so far since joining the PGA Tour, held him back. I don't have those worries at TPC River Highlands. And he's just been so splendid, man. Like we continue to see his floor week after week. T12 last week at the US Open, and he dropped a full stroke to the field average during the weekend. He's been
Apparently he wasn't hurt, man. Like
it doesn't seem like he's hurt. But it's just high-end finish after high-end finish. Listen to this stat line. He's finished inside the 20 at the Masters, the US Open, the Memorial, the RBC Heritage, the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the Players Championship, and the Genesis Invitational this year. Those are all majors or signature events. He has been so consistent. He's a freak, dude. And he rates out third in my model this week. Really good on short courses, second in strokes gained short courses, third in strokes gained easy conditions over the last 24 rounds, third in par fours, 350 to 400, third in proximity from 200 to 225, which I think that alone kind of shows you the variance of how good he is. He's great at short par fours. Oh, he's also great with his long irons as well. Fifth in strokes gained approach over the past 24 rounds, sixth in strokes gained tee to green, and he actually putts pretty well. Like he's one of those guys at the top who actually, I mean, knock on wood, consistently gains strokes putting and gain strokes putting throughout the California swing where we saw some of the POA trivials come into play. So yeah, I'm all aboard Ludwig this week. I think he's going to be one of the guys at the top who's uber motivated to kind of have that real breakthrough victory. I know he's already won on the PGA Tour. That was the RSM Classic in the fall. This would really put him into an upper echelon. He's just been so consistent. The ball striking's been amazing. And last year, he actually made one of his first pro starts here last year, finished T24, and he lost 4 strokes with his irons. I don't think he's going to lose 4 strokes with his irons this week.
Not the way he's going.
He's lost strokes with his irons just twice this year, and one of those was at the Century, the first event of the season. So throw that out. He's gained strokes every week except for one this season. The putter's been good. There's so many reasons to be on Ludwig this week. The 15-1 number was a little tough, but I bit the bullet on it this morning.
I love how we've already reached the point, though, because he's fresh on tour still in my head.
Yeah,
but we've already reached the point that he was here before on this course.
Yeah.
So, You know what I mean? Yeah, that experience I think could go a long ways too. And like you said, the motivational factors. Yeah, I think he definitely wants it, and he's not going to look back at last week. He wasn't. He's still the point where like 1 year in, it doesn't matter how he does at the majors.
No,
Anything is good. Like
it's all
anything that he
gravy.
does is good. Yeah.
There's no
So
stress, there's no pressure, there's no weight of the world on his shoulders like there is with the Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler coming after a down week. Now he brushes pressure to the side, but Ludwig's just it's just easy peasy right now for him at this stage of his golf career. So yeah, I'm in at him on him at 15-1. Cantlay and Hideki though, two really good options that I know you're intrigued about as well. Patrick Cantlay super popular, and I get it. Not really high end, like a ton of high end finish this year, but really consistently like inside the top 15. And it really feels like he finally found his game last week at the US Open. And I mean, Joey, he really wasn't that close from winning the US Open. Like his putter let him down, and that's one of his biggest assets. He had a lot of birdie putts to get to that 6 under number. He just fell a little bit short.
he almost
Yeah,
worked his way back into the playoff, man. Like we could have saw it. I think
no, for real.
that last was it the 18th
Yeah,
or there
he
was
had a birdie putt to get to 5, and if Bryson makes bogey at 18, there's a 3-way playoff at 5. So
legit. I thought that might have been a something that
yeah,
happens. And honestly, the way he was rolling, him getting into a playoff, I might have felt better about Cantlay winning that thing if it
who
gets to a
knows?
playoff.
I mean, who knows if it gets to a playoff? I didn't get on Cantlay. I'd like him more than Hideki though. I think just because I trust Cantlay's putter a little bit more. Hideki has been putting better lately. I will say that. I think he's gained strokes putting in 5 consecutive events now, which is great. Um, I just kind of want Hideki on a little bit harder golf courses. And I think he finished T13 here last year, which is his only appearance at the Travelers, I want to say. So this isn't a tournament he regularly plays. And listen, I'm almost a weekly Hideki backer. I think I've bet him like 7 or 8 times this year to no avail, unfortunately. And I was a little scared that I didn't end up on him last week, and you did, and was right there in the mix on Sunday. Just never really could get it going. But he continues to play really well. I'm just not that 25-1 numbers. Not enticing enough for me, especially when I jumped on Ludwig at 15. So I'd prefer Cantlay over Hideki in that range to me personally. But yeah, I thought a lot about Morikawa. I'm obviously in on Aberg. Intriguing range. I just only ended up on one of them.
Yeah, I mean, you might have just talked me into Aberg there. So I'm still thinking about it with Matsuyama and with Cantlay though too. I don't know. Well, I'll TBD it for now, but I really do think that Aberg is probably where I'm gonna go. I was looking at the strokes gained total too. What we had here in the model, strokes gained at TPC Riverlands, and it looks like that Hideki Matsuyama is first
He's only
in
played here
that,
once though.
but it's only once. Okay, so that would make sense because I didn't look at his past history here outside of the
Skewed
model.
sample size.
So okay, that makes sense then. Never mind. Do not ignore that, or yes, ignore that. Um,
It's funny. I saw that same thing in my model, and I'm like, I don't remember Hideki like having a ton of high end finishes here. Yeah, he only played here once.
Yeah, that doesn't. We cannot factor that in. Then anyone can do well once. So after that, did you? Oh, did you have any more thoughts on like the top of the range here?
Victor, I did look at Victor. It just ultimately came down to I think Ludwig's the better putter than he is right now. Like Victor's approach has been great once again. I think Victor will play well this week. I'd pick Aberg's putter over his.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not super thrilled with that number for Hovland right
No,
now. I just don't have that feeling. Um, Sam Burns 30-1. We got 30-1. I'm not going to say his name. You could say it, Jack.
never Tommy.
Never Tommy's 30-1. Corey Connors, your boy, 33-1. Russell Henley is 33. Sahith Theegala is 33. So is Tony Finau. So a lot of names in this group. I have one so far and possibly two. Corey Connors, I don't know if he can make enough putts. I really like Corey Connors in this range, but that's not who I like the most. Jack, talk to me about this area.
Yeah, I actually didn't end up on anyone in this range ultimately, but there was intrigue there. Sam Burns, I think 30-1 is a pretty fair number for a guy who does have a lot of putting upside. Could have won in Canada a few weeks ago had the putter cooperated like it did those first 36 holes on Sunday. Has been playing better golf, was sneakily really good at the US Open last week, his best finish in a major ever in his career, and I think he was -5 over the last 66 holes of that tournament. So I thought a lot about Sam Burns at 30. What I will say is Corey Connors, the putter has been there's some short game development going on here with Corey Connors recently. He's gained strokes around the green in 3 consecutive starts, 4.5 at Memorial, 2.5 at the U.S. Open. Gained 7 strokes putting at the RBC Canadian Open and 3.5 at the U.S. Open. So, I mean, that's certainly something to keep an eye on with the way that
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Corey Connors, his approach is that's what he does, and it's been at its best all season long. So I think it's getting to that time with Corey. I didn't get on him at 33-1, but he's definitely someone that's on my radar. I still just think this is a little bit too high scoring for him, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world whatsoever. Sahith Theegala almost won this tournament a couple of weeks ago, and there's putting upside there, even though his putter's been a little bit wonky in recent weeks. And then Tony Finau just continues to strike the crap out of the ball. The putter, we know the battle's there. 33 doesn't feel like a terrible number. Russell Henley has popped in a ton of models, maybe the most popular play of the week this week. Like there's a lot of intrigue in this range other than Tommy Fleetwood. I just didn't end up pulling the trigger on any of them. I would say my 2 favorites though are probably Burns and Henley in this range, but I'm not on any of these guys.
Yeah, it's a good area. Finau, like you were saying with the approach, he's third over the past 24 rounds in this field,
Yeah.
strokes gained approach. Corey Connors, like you said, the putting is actually, that's something he is kind of doing a lot better here. It looks like eighth strokes gained putting over the last 12
Yeah, notable.
rounds.
Notable. I
So
mean, this
that
guy
is
can stripe
very
the golf
notable.
ball. Yeah.
So especially with that approach, I think that puts him in contention if he can keep putting like that. Can he go low enough? I don't know. Uh, but that's definitely a possibility there. The guy who I really like in this range, and it's not even the number that he's at right now. I had to get a boost on it. Russell Henley. I really like Russell, and the models love him. The
Always
models
do.
love him.
Always
But
do. They loved him last week. He pulled up to Pinehurst in the limo with the Doves. Might do the
the
same thing in Cromwell this week.
I think he's pulling out of there, dude. He's slow motioning the fuck out of that drive off, just like you said with Rory. How fast was he going when he took off? Russell Henley's big pimping this thing out of that parking lot. Like he's he's getting out of there in style. Hopefully, if he pulls out the W. But I got him at plus 37.24 with a little boost. Uh,
So
which
random.
it's
Gotta
very
love
random.
the random numbers you get after boosts.
Yeah, it's the good old MGM 33% or yeah, 33% boost that I got on it. But very good course history here at TPC River Highlands. Um, he's shown that he can be really good on short courses too. He's fourth overall in my model this week, second over the last 24 rounds from that 125 to 150 yard bucket, eighth in strokes gained putting over the last 12 rounds, second in driving accuracy over the last 24, 14th in strokes gained approach over the last 24. Just a lot to like here from Mr. Henley. So I know he's always that guy that like, oh, top 20, Russell Henley, top 20, top 20. Like that's kind of more of what the feel I usually have for him going into tournaments. But this is a tournament where, and I know we were just talking about motivational factors. Will he be as motivated? Maybe not, but it's been a minute since we've seen him, you know what I mean, with the actual scare of winning. And I mean, he was good. He was good last week too. So I think it might be time to get back on Russell Henley here.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand it. The only reason I really didn't is I just don't like the number. I just
Yeah, that's
don't
not a
love
good number.
Russell Henley at 33. There's even a 28-1 out there in a signature event. It's a good course for him. He gains ball striking here year in and year out. Comes down to whether or not he'll make enough putts. I just didn't love the odds. That was enough to sway me. Can't bet all of them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Outside of that, Sahith was intriguing to me, but it kind of was the same thing with you. I just can't bet them all. So I just, you know, smooth right past Sahith the Gal, even though I really liked him here at this course. 45, we have Mr. Weasel himself, Brian Harmon. We got Tom Kim 45-1, which that number has come crashing down. Justin Thomas at 45, Sepp Straka 45 again too. We were talking about that pre-show. His numbers also come down quite a bit. And then we get to the 50 range, but those are the guys at 45. I know we like this range. At least one guy here. So, Jack, you do the honors.
Yeah, good range here. I have 2 bets in this range. My first click of the week was Tom Kim, 60-1. Thought was a really good number. Someone I was, excuse me, planning on betting like Friday of last week at this event. I've been keeping an eye on him, and I was low-key hoping that he wasn't going to have too good of a finish at the U.S. Open like Russell Henley did to make him super popular this week. Still wound up getting bet down now to 45-1. I nabbed that 60 at Bet Rivers Enhanced. While it was still there, he's playing a lot better golf here as of late and starting to get it going. It feels like it could be a good summer for Tom Kim with some of these courses that are coming up for him. And he always plays his best on these shorter courses. All 3 of his wins have come on tracks like this one twice at TPC Summerlin, which is 7,200 yards, but as a par 71. So an extra par 5 to add some yardage there. And then his first win came at Sedgefield Country Club, which is a 7,100 yard par 70. So he generally wins on these types of setups so far in his young PGA Tour career. And the approach is back to being spectacular again after a pretty slow start to the season. Gained nearly 5 strokes to the field on approach last week at the U.S. Open. Also has been making some notable strides with the short game category and dropped 3.5 strokes here in that area last year and gained over 6 strokes ball striking. So odds are I think he's not going to lose as much in the short game once again. And I believe that the ball striking is fully back. He's going to hit a lot of fairways. Distance isn't going to mitigate him whatsoever on this course. Got a lot of good numbers, too. A really good wedge player. He's first in the field in proximity from 125 to 150 yards. 6th in par 4s, 400 to 450. 12th in strokes gained, tee to green total. And as I referenced, the putter's been starting to cooperate as well. He gained 4.5 strokes at the RBC Heritage, almost 2 strokes at the PGA Championship, and half a stroke last week at Pinehurst, which isn't too notable, but like at least was on the positive side, and those surfaces were really quick. He doesn't have any experiences on them, so I think he's starting to get comfortable again. And Poa, interestingly enough, has been his preferred surface putting so far in his young career as well. So yeah, I jumped on Tom Kim at 60-1. I also bet Sepp Straka. I if I'm being honest, I haven't bet him yet. That 45-1 is there. I'm hoping for a boost tomorrow morning to maybe get him up to like 50 or 52, 55 or something like that. But Straka through 36 holes played really solid again last week at the U.S. Open. Gained over 4 strokes to the field through the first 2 rounds, but gave it all back and then some during the weekend. He kind of got Pinehursted as well, but the ball striking remains to be spectacular. He's gained over 2 strokes in that category in 7 consecutive starts. And he kind of like, not in the same fashion as Ludwig Oberg, but he has a ton of high-end finishes in some of the best events. T16 at the Players, T5 at Memorial, T8 at the Wells Fargo, T5 at the RBC Heritage, T16 at the Masters, and he's also won twice on 2 shorter courses in PGA National in Florida and TPC Deer Run, the John Deere Classic here in our neck of the woods a little bit in Illinois. A lot of the numbers rate out really well for Straka too. 2nd in good drive percentage, 5th in approach, 5th in par 4s over the last 24 rounds, 12th in strokes gained tee to green, 9th in greens and regulation. So I think the irons are really dialed in for him right now. And Poa also by a pretty wide margin has been his preferred putting surface in his short career. So even though the putter's been hot and cold, this feels like a spot where he could potentially have a spike putting week upside. So I'm back aboard the septic tank again this week. I've been on him the last few weeks. He's given me no reason to jump on. So, yeah, it's Tom Kim and Sep Straka from this range. I did think long and hard though about Brian Harmon. Pause, because he has an incredible course history around this place too. You could call this
He's a
bad boy.
perfect fit.
Could call this bad boy the Brian Harmon Open, and it makes sense. Hit your fairways, hit your wedges, putt good. Brian Harmon does all those things. So an intriguing range, but yeah, only ended up on I actually it was very similar to I chose Morikawa. I chose Ludwig over Morikawa. He edged him out. That's how it was for me in this range. Straka over Harmon. I just think Straka's in the better form, and even though Harmon won the Open last year, I kind of think Sepp Straka's the better player. At the same odds, I chose Sepp.
That's becoming my favorite part of the show now, the septic tank. When that's a reference,
tank, baby.
The septic tank is starting to become a looking forward to spot of the show.
Yeah.
I hate that we're doing this, Jack. Why are we on the same guys again this week?
It worked out last week.
It did work out last week, but like, how long can we keep this going?
Hopefully 2 weeks in a row. Just worry about this job right here, right now. We'll get to Rocket Mortgage when we do.
I swear this has not always happened, though. Like, if you watch back the history of this show, we are not always on the same. Usually, we're kind of like in the same area. We like the same golfers, but then one of us will sway here and there. And yeah, Tom Kim, I got to him as well. And you definitely brought him up to me over the weekend. And
yeah,
you know, we were talking about him, and I believe last year, I'm looking at who we bet last year. I bet him last year too.
You did?
I mean, I did bet him last year. I was looking at it. And, you know, because we were looking at the same buckets again. And I made these notes. I'm looking at the accuracy, ranked second in approaches from 125 to 150 yards. That's where he was at last year. T8 last week and ranked fourth in gained strokes on approach. Those are all my notes from last year leading into this tournament. Now you look at this year, and he's gained 10.6 strokes on approach in his last 3 events combined. And then, you know he's going to hit the fairways. That 60-1 number, I'm glad that I was able to sneak that in with you and get that number, because I do really like Tom Kim this week. In the septic tank, don't let us find out that he's playing well lately.
I know.
Just don't do it, because he is fun to bet and fun to watch. I think we've talked about a little bit too about the past recent performances. Like last week, I think we were talking about a little the last 24 rounds in this field. Obviously, you know, you're talking about the approach. It's been really good. Fourth in accuracy as well over the last 24, and fourth in birdie or better gained percentage relative to the field. So that's something I kind of switched in my model. I went relative to the field for the birdie or better gain percentage, and I think we're going to need some birdies. We obviously are this week. So Sepp Straka, Tom Kim, very much aligned with you there. Also, did we talk about Siwoo?
No, we didn't get to that 50 pocket yet.
Okay, so the 50 pocket. All right, so in this range, we have Jordan Spieth. I don't understand it. He's 50-1. Matthew Fitzpatrick 50-1. So is Siwoo Kim, Sungjae Im, and then you have Keegan Bradley at 55-1. So we'll kind of shut it down there. Sungjae Im, I understand.
I'm not there yet.
Why people like it? Yeah, I'm just not quite there yet. Siwoo Kim at 50-1 might be a bet for me.
I bet him here last year.
Did you? Okay.
He loves every other Pete Dye course except for this one.
Makes sense. Yeah, he's fourth too, and I was looking at this, and we were talking about how, you know, a lot of guys will hit fairways, but he's fourth in distance from the edge of the fairway, which is a high correlation metric this week to success. When I was looking at, you know, kind of the key stats here, at least on Rick Rungood, it was one of the most important correlators, at least comparatively to the other courses we've seen on tour. You know, he missed each of his last 3 cuts here, and so that's not a good sign. But the year before that, he had the 11th place finish, so he's basically random AF. over the last 24 rounds, he is 8th in strokes gained approach, 14th in accuracy, and 20th from that 125 to 150 bucket. So I don't know, man. Maybe I don't really feel great about it, obviously, if he's missed the last 3 cuts here, but that's definitely worth a shot. Where do you stand here in this range?
No, I'm probably out on Siwoo. 50-1 in a putting contest. What's a shame is he actually gained over a stroke putting last week at the U.S. Open, and like lost a stroke and a half at Murfield Village. That's actually like okay for Siwoo standards. It feels like maybe he's starting to turn a corner at putting, but his approach hasn't been as good the last month compared to what it was like throughout May and April. So that plus his course history, nah, I'm out on Siwoo.
Yeah, I totally feel you too. I think the putting could be a real issue here for Siwoo. So I guess it makes sense why he's missed the cut here so often too. Let's see who else we have here. Fitzpatrick. I don't know. I definitely can't bet Jordan Spieth right now. Just I won't get there. So 70-1 range. We have Akshay, we have Denny Mack, we have JT Poston, Max Homa, Adam Scott, and Benny Anna, and then Windy City Flyer, Wyndham Clark. I don't know if I see anything I really truly love here. There's I feel like Poston and I don't know, man. There's a couple names in here that I could get behind, but I haven't made a bet here. Have you placed anything here?
Yeah, I have, and this is, I mean, Max Homa 70, Wyndham Clark 75. If you said that like 2 months ago, people would have been licking their chops. Uh yeah, this
I
is an
know that
interesting.
Windy City Flyer, man. That number is like
What I'll say about Wyndham is Poa is his preferred surface, and he can spike with the putter. I wouldn't like I wouldn't call anyone crazy if they took a chance at Wyndham Clark 75-1. What I will say is his approach has not been nearly as good as it was throughout that Florida swing when he was playing some really excellent golf. Um, he's very live to miss the. All right, there is no cut. He's very live to finish near the bottom, but he does still possess that upside, and I think 75-1 is a fair number. For me though, I got Akshay, but I got him at 100.
ooh,
That it was literally just a
okay.
number. It was literally just a number play, to be quite honest with you. But he's been playing good. Like he finished T22 at the Memorial, and I want to say he was higher than that. Yeah, he gave almost 3 strokes back on the weekend, so was sitting pretty through 36 holes there. Still finished. I mean, he gained strokes every round at the U.S. Open. Was T16 there? It was literally just a talent and upside play. I thought 100-1 was more than a fair number for what he's capable of doing with his approach. The putter has been much better this year since he switched to the broomstick. It hasn't been as hot as it was like a month ago, but there's still upside there. Gained over 2 strokes putting last week at Pinehurst. So yeah, it was just kind of a talent play. I think JT Poston is interesting. Anytime wedge game and putting matters, those are usually spots you want JT Poston. I'd rather use him in like a DFS market. I don't know if he's quite ready to win right now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the mix given this is kind of his skill set. I'm not going to bet Denny. This makes sense for Denny. He shot a 60 in round one here last year as the first round leader, -10. Wasn't able to get across the finish line. I actually remember that. He was scorching hot. This feels like it could be a good spot for Denny. He's just so random. He's unpredictable. The approach isn't good, but he can gain 10 strokes putting out of nowhere and be in contention. So, yeah, it's an interesting range. I ended up pulling the trigger only on Akshay, obviously at a bigger number, but I wouldn't hate Denny or Poston.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's very difficult to see me getting behind any of these guys other than
It's
like
fair.
even Wyndham Clark because he just hasn't looked good lately. And that's a big concern for me, even though I'm a huge Wyndham Clark fan, but I do get the Akshay move too. I think that's a good number. You got 100-1. I think that's a good play. Um, Yeah, outside of that, man, Denny Mack, this is just a weird. I could see maybe a first round leader bet again. Honestly, what if he did it back to back years?
One of my good buddies actually has Denny first round leader. He texted our group chat about it this morning, so maybe there's something to it.
Maybe. I don't think that's a terrible move. I also could see him in the top five mix or winning this thing. Um, let's see here. Adam Scott 75. Yeah, Max Homa though, that number. Sorry, I just had to stop right there. That is insane to think that that could be a good like 70 to 1 is probably worth a look. Like I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do it, but I totally understand
Great,
that.
great number. Probably as big as
Yeah.
it's been in 2 years for him.
Yeah, that's wild. Adam Scott 75 to 1. We already talked about okay. 80 to 1. Cam Young. We got Christian Bezaden who's 80 to 1. Shane Lowry, Billy Horschel, Harris English, Jason Day, Tom Hoagie, all at 90 to 1. So it's not a beautiful day anymore. I'm not on Jason Day, at least for until the foreseeable future, or for the foreseeable future. I can't get behind him. He's just been looking awful. The Wedge Fest, Hoagie kind of makes sense in a Wedge Fest, but I don't know about if this is the course
No, it's
for
not.
him.
No, he's never been good here.
Yeah, he just does not have that history. The one guy I got behind, and I was thinking about Shane Lowry. I really was. I believe last year I bet Harris English here, but the one guy I'm strongly thinking 80 to 1 is Christian Bezadenhout.
I bet him at 90.
All right.
Bet him
There we
at
go.
90. I'm in. I've been keeping an eye on Seabez. In that fifth at Memorial that he had, or fourth at Memorial a couple of weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago. Man, similarly, like to Straka and Ludwig. Listen to these finishes that Seabez has this year. This is a crazy stat for you. T32 last week at the U.S. Open. It's the second worst finish that Seabez has had since early March. His
That's
second
crazy.
worst. Yeah, dude. Fourth at Memorial, T9 at Valspar, which I mentioned could be a comp course, T13 at the Players, T16 at Quail Hollow, T17 at the Charles Schwab Challenge, T28 at the RBC Heritage, all over the last 3 months, 90 to 1. A guy who has putting upside, if you want to talk about it, and I think is not as hot as he was, kind of like some of these guys I've been mentioning earlier in the year, but I think he has better iron game than Denny McCarthy. I think he's basically the same thing as Denny, but 20 points higher with better finishes recently. Like I'd much rather bet Seabez than I would bet Denny. 11th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting on the season, third in approach putt performance, so takes advantage of a lot of his birdie looks, as evident by his high-end finishes. And you know that when you go and look at his like profile on rickrungood.com, there's some red in there ball striking. It's because he doesn't hit the ball very far. He averages like 285 yards off the tee, and he's not the most accurate. So it's kind of painful, but this is a more open course where distance isn't going to hurt him. And he's someone who scores really well on par four, seventh in strokes gained par fours over the last 24 rounds, sixth in strokes gained putting on POA greens, 24th in birdie or better percentage. I think Seabez, I've been looking for spots to bet him. I think this is a pretty darn good one. Does feel like a little bit big of an ask to ask him to win a signature event, but man,
Good
he's been,
number.
yeah, good number. He's been creeping on the door. I'd rather bet him than a lot of guys down here, given his fit on this course in particular, where he's going to have short irons in and it's going to be all about his putting. We know he can do that, and he's really gifted around the green as well. So, yeah, Seabez is one of my long shots for sure this week. I really like him.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying there. Missed the cut each of the two times he's been here, which doesn't make me feel good, but
He's just
he's
better now. He's better
his
now.
yeah, and dude, yeah, and his fit, like his game, you would think plays really well here. Honestly, even the concerns. So he's fifth in adjusted course fit here
Yeah.
at this course, but also the concerns that we would have. I mean, he's been decent lately with the driving accuracy. He's 30th. over the last
Right.
24 rounds in driving accuracy. I mean,
He
even
just doesn't hit it far. He just doesn't hit it far. So
doesn't
that's why
hit.
his off the tee numbers look terrible because he's literally one of the shortest guys out there. And what I love to hear though is I forget this guy's name who I follow on X, and I'm really sorry about it. But I know he's putting in the work to try to get longer. Like he's making an effort. He knows that's kind of something that's holding him back. And even with that still kind of being a flaw, he's putting up all these high end finishes. And 90-1. I mean, it's only a little sprinkle. Like it's not the end of the world if he doesn't hit, and he more than likely isn't going to hit.
Don't
But
say that. Don't say
listen,
that.
there's a reason he's 90-1 for a reason. Odds are he's not going to hit, but there's upside there to believe that he can. That's the biggest thing. And that's more than I can say about a lot of these guys. I did try to sway myself into Tom Hoagie too, because the wedges are always good. He plays like shit here, and I don't trust the putter.
Yeah.
Don't trust the putter.
I'm just not. When I get the feeling again, I'll.
Hoagie burned me at the fucking Charles Schwab, dude. He burned me. So I'm a little salty with him right now.
I've bet him too many times, so we're just we're just not. He's been very good to me, but he's also been bad to me lately. So
yeah, I mean,
sorry.
he won 2.5 years ago, Joey. You've been shelling out that payout.
I know, dude.
Ever since Pebble Beach in February of 2022.
I've given all my money back that he's been good to me on. like really, was it that good?
He
No,
still earned you more money than Jason Day.
that's true. Fuck you, Jack. Fuck you. All right, you did. All right, I'm not betting Jason Day, so we're fine. But yes, Jason Day is still on my shit list now, even though I love him. 100 range. These are the real long shots, Jack. Do you got any real long shots? I'll throw out. I'll just throw out a few names. You might have like legit bets. I don't have like legit bets, yet. So I think Justin Rose to me caught my attention from the 125 to 150 measure, and then Pendrith kind of catches my attention a little bit here, just from how he's looked. And Mackenzie Hughes. This feels like a Mackenzie Hughes course. And he's 170-1. But these are, I mean, we're getting in the territory now where it's like, do you really see? Yeah, I don't know, Jack. What do you feel? Do you feel strongly about anybody?
I actually do have two bombs that I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
I was thinking about Taylor Pendrith, though. Approach and putting, that's what he can do. The putter's been great over the last month and a half, and I really did give him a long look. I ultimately ended up on another Canadian in Adam Hadwin, 150-1. Not in as great of form as Pendrith, but I think he's one of those guys who could be a little extra motivated because he kind of got bang jobbed by Corey Connors last week. Adam Hadwin missed the cut at the U.S. Open. Corey Connors finished T9. That had Corey Connors jump Adam Hadwin for the second and last Olympic spot for Canada at this year's Olympics. So Adam Hadwin, tough news for him last week that he's not going to be playing for his native country at this year's Olympics. Narrowly missed out, and just went toe to toe 2 weeks ago.
Wait, weren't you on him at the Memorial or no?
No, I wasn't on Hadwin at the Memorial. No.
Okay, I thought you were on him somewhere not that long ago. I thought.
No, it's been a while actually since I don't think I've been on Hadwin recently. I don't think so, at least. I don't know. All these weeks stack up together anyway, so I certainly could have. But approach, putting, upside, I think that's what Adam Hadwin can do. He's got a lot of good finishes in his career at the Valspar, which I mentioned could be a comp course. So I'm in on Hadwin, just kind of my own narrative that I spun that way. I also did think about Mackenzie Hughes as well, who finished very good at the Valspar this season too. Just his numbers from the U.S. Open in the past 2 weeks from Memorial 2 kind of skewed me away, but I was staring down that 200-1 on Mac Hughes, and I wouldn't hate if you did. Like there's putting and iron upside there for sure. But I ended up getting on Ben Griffin, 200-1. Ben Griffin, wow. Someone that going into the start of this year, I really thought was gonna win on the PGA Tour. And he's starting to show signs of life. Just came second at the RBC Canadian Open a couple of weeks ago. And the two skill sets that kind of separated themselves at that tournament are kind of the same this week. Now, that was obviously not as strong of a field, but that's why you're getting Ben Griffin at 200 to 1 instead of 50 to 1. Drives the ball accurately, doesn't hit it very far. That's not a problem here, and just has been in much better form over the last month. So they're long shots, only a couple of bucks. It is admittedly a tough ask for them to win this event. But I had room for a couple more bombs because I didn't go that heavy at the top. And altogether, this is just a weird week, man. I've come to that conclusion so many times that there's so many different motivating factors, so many ways you could research this thing. That I think it could be up for grabs, maybe. Certainly more so than like the Memorial or the U.S. Open were. So I wanted to have a couple of bombs. Those were the two that I ultimately got to, though. But yeah, that's all the real interest that I had in this range. I will say, Brennan Todd 400 to 1 is not a bad number, but I didn't get there.
Yeah, I think this would be a good spot for Todd, the Todd father.
I also thought about Vic Perez 220 to 1.
Yeah, no, he killed me a couple weeks ago. I'm done with him.
He killed you last week at the U.S. Open, I'm pretty sure.
Was he the props that I had? Yeah.
Him and Noren burnt your ass with a flame.
Oh yeah, it was last week, literally last week to make the cut. I had him in a head-to-head. Fuck him right now. Sorry.
This is a much better setup for Vic Perez.
I'm very curious though, not to cut you off on Vic.
Didn't have much more to say anyway.
Where do you have Ben Griffin in your model? Just rank wise.
Not good.
But I'm going to encourage you just a little bit here. He's 23rd in mine.
Really?
I don't know.
Just kidding. I was thinking of someone else. He's 22nd in mine.
Oh, okay. So
I was thinking of Hadwin. Hadwin didn't rank out good for me, but I bet him anyway. Yeah, Hadwin's 39th for me.
Okay.
In a 70-man field, so not very good. But
holy crap, man.
And Griffin's 22.
And he's looked really good on the short and easy courses, I think, too.
Right?
From what it looks like.
He's had some tough losses. Like, I think he's got those like our experiences that are going to bode well for him down the road. But yeah, you mentioned, I mean, T14 at Corrales Punta Cana, T16 at the Myrtle Beach Classic. These are alternate events, but still high-end finishes. And then finally put it together for the second at the Canadian Open, where he gained 7 strokes approach and 5 strokes putting. Give me that upside. If he does that, he'll have a chance.
I like it. I actually really like it and did not even have one thought about him until you said something. So, yeah.
He's been better lately. And I don't blame him for losing 4 strokes putting at the Memorial. Like, that'll happen.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a tough spot. Are we grilling?
I heard somebody shout out. There's a number you might be interested in. I think Griot was like minus 110 for a top 40. She's got to be 27 guys. Ball striking's back. Ball striking's back for Griot, which you love to see.
Top 40 could be a good play. Where's he at in my model though?
Hold on. Here's the I just gave you the angel like
he's
on
57th.
One shoulder. Here's the devil. Here's the devil. Emiliano Griot's finished inside the top 40 once since the Arnold Palmer Invitational on March 10th.
He's not a floor guy, I don't think. He's not. He's a high upside guy at times with a worse field. Like in a field like this, I just don't trust him, to be honest with you.
No, there's his off the tee's been bad recently, which is weird. That's kind of what I feel like has changed him, which doesn't really matter here, but when you're not putting either, it's kind of tough.
You don't know what's disgusting? I'm going to give you some names here of guys that I might actively look to target against.
Yeah, sure. Throw them out real quick.
Just in head-to-heads. Well, Wyndham Clark, I love the number on him. Like from an upside standpoint, hate the floor. He's 60th in my model. I might target against him in head-to-heads. Will Zalatoris, who's 66th in my model.
He's been struggling.
I don't know if they're giving me any good options to go up against, but that might be an option, or those might be a couple of targets there. And then who else? Let's see here. Down the board. I was really Pavon is kind of the guy that he doesn't rate out well here, but I really don't want to go against him right now.
No, there could be something to that. He doesn't rate out well because he was literally dreadful before the U.S. Open last week. Like, was on a terrible stretch, but played well during that West Coast swing. A guy who approaching putting, he has the upside there, and we don't really have like a big enough sample size from him on tour to really know what's a good spot and what's not. This feels like a good one for him though.
Yeah, maybe I hope they give us him versus Willie Z. I'd take that. Jack, any prop bets that you got before we get to one and done?
I got nada. Maybe I'll bet Denny first round leader.
I think
Maybe.
that, yeah, your buddy was onto something in the group chat.
Yeah, let me see. I think he might have had another bet too. Let me find it real quick because there was another first round leader bet, and in case it hits, I don't want anyone to miss out on that bad boy.
We need to give him a code name. Like your buddy, he can just throw in his like prop bets every week.
No,
We'll give
I
him
know his code name. I know his code name. We're gonna call him Pedro because that's his
Pedro.
sarcastic nickname. So yeah, well, little does he know he's part of the show now. Pedro's bets. He's got Denny McCarthy, Brian Harmon, and Xander Schauffele first round leader.
Okay, there we go. But does Pedro have any outrights?
No, Pedro, and by the way, Pedro is a sicko. A golf.
We love him already. We love him already.
No, he's the type of guy who he's betting. He likes to find certain holes that are easy, and he'll bet on like 15 guys to make birdie on that hole, like plus 200. Like he's all over the board. He's not in the outright game, but he's more in the golf betting scene than us. So he's in the nitty gritty. He's on the front lines, dude.
Well, tell him if he ever wants a little guest spot, Pedro. We can keep his like face concealed.
Oh, he had a great first round leader hit the other week. Who was first round leader at Memorial? Someone had to make a putt on the last, like a 13-footer on the last. I forget who it was, and he made it. But yeah, shout out to Pedro. Always good for some first round leader bets.
Love it. We're gonna need Pedro to continue on here the rest of the season.
Maybe we'll have him. Maybe we'll have him come on the show, and we'll put him in one of those like masks and do the deep voice, so we don't like reveal his identity to the world.
Right.
So he can be like the anonymous DJ. And this could be a thing here.
Could make him sound like Chewbacca or something.
Yeah. Wow, that's really weird because he can do a good Chewbacca voice. This is just getting strange.
I don't even know this dude.
I know this is just getting weird, but he's literally that friend in my friend group who can do the Chewy voice. So this is just crazy. Let's get to one and done and get on.
Yeah, one and done. I cannot give you a solidified answer because I do not know who the fuck I've used. I did not come in prepared.
Such a potato. You're such
I came in last week prepared, but I was already prepared for like weeks. So I'll give you a name.
Right, because you had Scotty Scheffler. Oh yeah, you had to think real hard about your one and done at the U.S. Open.
I know. I'm an asshole. All right.
I'm still up because I got another winner last week in the one.
I know.
Dude, it's been an unbelievable run for me in one and done. I had the
We don't need to talk about it.
Jaeger in Houston, Scotty at the Masters, Rory at Wells Fargo, Morikawa with the second at Memorial, Bryson at the U.S. Open. How about that? I'm going with the Weasel, baby. I'm going with Brian Harmon. It's the Brian Harmon Open. I kind of wanted to bet him. If he wins and I don't have money on him, I will feel bad, but I could see him coming T7. So I'm going with the Weasel.
I like it. I'm pretty sure I picked Russell Henley.
Go through names, and I'll let you know.
Have I picked Russell Henley? The models love him.
No, you haven't used Russell Henley.
Let's go. That's it, baby. I feel the best this week about Russell Henley than I feel better about him than I have all season. So even though it's a signature event, I think he's gonna give me a good floor regardless. So let's go with that.
I like it.
All right.
Brian Harmon versus Russell Henley.
We should water bet.
Nah, not on this one.
Not on this one. Head to head though.
Not betting Brian Harmon versus Russell Henley at the fucking Travelers.
All right,
we'll get to a good one. Next big one will be at the Open. We'll have a good.
We have all this money to play with after last week.
We'll have more money after we get a winner this week on Sepp Straka or Tom Kim or Studvig if you bet them.
Yeah, Studvig does look like a good option, and he is a stud. So, Jack, final thoughts this week. I don't know why I picked this up. This is a little mini fan, by the way.
Love it. Keeps it nice and cool.
Yeah, well, it just ran out of batteries right now, and it needs a good little charge, just like we do, because it's been hot as hell here in the Midwest, and
Woo.
it is, dude, it's awful. But hopefully, just like my tagline here, heater, and it's hot outside. Hopefully, we are on as much of a heater as it is hot outside, or vice versa. Maybe it just got hot because we're getting hot. Jack, final thoughts leading up to the tournament this weekend.
Yeah, final signature event of the year. This will be the last time. Well, I guess we'll still have the Open, but last time on a PGA Tour schedule where we'll see all of these big dogs together until the playoffs. I think it'll be a fun tournament. It's different than what we've got in the last few weeks, so I think that's what's going to be the big intrigue to me. Is just it's a different setup than what we've got, and it could lead different types of players potentially to have paths to the top of the leaderboard. So we'll see how it all goes down. And quite honestly, Joey, we're getting into a little bit of a stretch where it's not going to be the most enticing for the fans, but I personally am really looking forward to it, considering how much of a nuisance Scotty Scheffler has been. We got the Rocket Mortgage next week, which is just good memes from Ricky last year, which was like my favorite bet of the entire year because I laid a 50 burger down on old Rick and he came through in a playoff after looking like he gagged it away in classic Ricky fashion, might I add. So I'm excited for that. I also might be boots on the ground at Detroit Golf Club during the weekend, still waiting to see on that. And then we
There
got
we
the
go.
John Deere the week after, the Genesis Scottish Open. So might not be the most notable for the non-diehard golf fans, but a 3-week stretch that I actually am looking forward to, and I think is going to provide us a good opportunity to get some winners, Joey. So we're in the nitty gritty of golf season here as we get towards the summer. And as you said, man, hopefully we can catch a little bit of a heater here. It would be nice. This is usually the time of the year where I start to get things going. So hopefully this is only just the beginning, my friend, and we can ride that momentum from the Bryson DeChambeau W last week. Those fist pumps still got me fired up. Bryson roaring with the crowd. That up and down that he had on 10, where he looks at the crowd, he pumps his chest and says, "Let's go." I'm like, dude, we've been missing this in golf. We got a fucking guy
He
like
did.
this finally. It's appointment television, is what Bryson DeChambeau is. So, yeah, man, riding the high from last week. Let's get another one this week at TPC River Highlands.
I love. I wish that we had. We'll just merge them together at this point between Live and PJ, please.
Right?
But I just really wish that like we had that what Bryson can give, even in Rory or in Scotty, like somebody
Yeah.
that's just it really is lacking that. Like you could tell a big difference. Like I feel like even Brooks, man, like Brooks would be kind of that if he's winning on tour, he gets a little amped up too. And I feel like that's why they just don't really see eye to eye. But like Bryson's just a different animal, man. And I loved every second of it. If we can get something similar this week from somebody, great. If not, just give us an outright. I'm okay with that. You can be boring as all hell, Jack. As long as we win bets, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
Draw it up
especially if
any
it's
way
not a
you want
major.
to. Draw it up any way you want to. The final result, if it still winds up with money in the old account, I'm going to be happy. That's the end goal this week. Let's hopefully make it 2 in a row. As always, I'm Jack Bushman. You can find me on X at Jack Bushman2. Go and find Joey on X as well at Joey Knows Nothing and show some love to the show's page at On Tap Golf. Make sure you're following On Tap Golf as well on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you're not already a member over at Bet Rivers, be sure to use the promo code ONTAP to get up to a $250 deposit on a $250 match, on your first deposit. But until our next show, everyone, best of luck this week here for the Travelers Championship. We'll see you next time. Crack 'em, lock 'em. Everyone enjoy.